Hey everyone, let's keep talking about Saga. So, this is the third video in our series where we're taking a look at the current run of Saga, which is comprised of 72 issues. And in this video specifically, we're going to be looking at issues 37 to 54, which makes up the third compendium. And then next Friday, January 30th, we're going to be looking at the final set of issues, which is 55 to 72. It is very much worth mentioning that there will be some heavy spoilers in this video, so if you have not taken a dive into this series or you're not caught up with where we are now, please watch this video at a later time, but make sure to come back and let us know what you think. All right, so I think the best way to start this video is to say that I was definitely not prepared for everything that was going to happen. This was intense from an emotional perspective and just from a heaviness perspective. It is a lot. And I would say that this portion of the story is all about a few different things, which is acceptance, love, loss, and grief. And more importantly, it takes a much closer look at how this is affecting Hazel. Because at this point, she's a little bit older, she's more mature, and so all of these things that are happening around her, all of this chaos and all of these people that are helping or not helping, is really starting to shape how she feels and how she is growing up and becoming an adult. And if I had to make an assumption, I would think that in this next set of issues, 55 to 72, that we're really going to take a closer look at how that affects her. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm expecting in the next set. Okay, so our first portion of this story revolves around a comet that is known as Fang, and it is a war-torn location that they find themselves having to stop at out of necessity because their ship is running out of fuel. So it is definitely a dangerous decision, but it's one that they have to make, or else they are not going to be able to proceed with what they need to do. And this is really where we start to see our major losses in this portion of the story. We are met with another freelancer known as the March, and that freelancer ends up killing Isabel. Isabel is the horror that is attached to Hazel, and we really didn't know that the horrors could actually die again. And so this is the first major loss of this portion of the story, and we see that Hazel knows that it happens. She can feel it, and she also can't feel Isabel anymore. And so this is really a foreshadowing and a precursor to the rest of the things that are going to happen in this portion of the story. Shortly after they land on Fang, they meet these new creatures that we haven't seen before. And in fact, I don't believe they're ever given a name as far as a species is concerned, but they're like these little badger-like creatures. Hazel becomes very, very close with one of them, whose name is Curdy, and they decide to befriend these creatures. They need shelter and food, and so they become close to them. And so for a period of like 6 months, I think Hazel is really seeing some sort of normalcy, with this one that she's close with, Curdy. She gets to kind of, get in trouble a little bit and get up to some different hijinks and things that you would normally get into for a child of her age. And so it's one small little glimmering beacon of hope in a very, very dark portion of the story. But things kind of progress in a negative, fashion from there on. One of the most devastating things that happens during this portion of the story is we learn that the baby that Alana is carrying actually dies. And she is in need of having to miscarry this child because it is affecting her health physically. And in fact, it could very well kill her. Something that happens directly out of that is that this baby gives Alana some type of magical power. Seeing that Marco is the father, his people are gifted with powers of the magical kind. This baby has given Alana the ability to do some sort of really, really powerful spell, a projection of sorts, which allows this unborn baby, Hazel's brother, to actually be physically represented in the world. And so while it is beautiful that Alana and Marco get to meet their unborn son, Hazel gets to meet the brother that she has never had and never will have. It's also absolutely heartbreaking because they have to say goodbye to this unborn baby because it has to be removed, or else Alana could die. As we progress forward, the hits really keep on coming. We learn that Fang is on a crash course with a planet that was really an egg that gave birth to this celestial being, and we found that out in this last portion of the story. And the comet is intentionally rather, being hurtled towards this thing, this celestial body, and everyone on Fang will be destroyed. And so that really takes the timeline of what has to happen for Marco and Alana and the rest of the group and speeds it up greatly. One interesting thing that also happens is Robot Prince and Petrichor actually end up falling in love. And it's an interesting mirror for what happened with Alana and Marco. But along with that love comes a shift in the Robot Prince in which he says, hey, I don't want to lose anymore. And so I need to find a way out of this with my new love and with my son, Squire. So he makes a deal with these two journalists or reporters that they're with for the tabloid, in which he sells a story that is something that will definitely send some ripples through these governments that are involved in exchange for a type of witness protection program. That really leads to another loss for Hazel, though, because she's become extremely close with Squire. He is essentially the brother that she never got to have outside of this, projection that Alana made for the unborn brother. And so this leads to more loss for her. One of the reporters ends up being killed. His name is Doff. And then, really, this portion of the series ends with two major losses. One is with Robot Prince. This is one that I actually knew was coming because I accidentally read a spoiler and I was still absolutely shocked. The panel in which this happened, which involved the will catching up with them, his path for vengeance is still very strong. He ends up literally ripping Robot Prince's head off in front of Marco. And Marco tried to stop it, even though he didn't have to. He chose the option of peace, and it didn't work this time for him. That led Marco to attack the will. They ended up falling into a ship, which was sent out into space, in which Marco and the will fight to the death. And Marco has a point where he could kill the will. And he chooses peace once again. And unfortunately, that comes back to bite him because the will actually ends up killing Marco. That was one of the other most devastating things in this portion of the series and is going to play a major role in how the story proceeds forward. And the way that they ended this series, I thought, was really great. It was beautiful. It was a memory between Marco and Hazel on the beach and just showing a beautiful connection between father and daughter. And it was a really great way to end this portion of the story. So overall, in the end, this was a difficult read in the best way, I would say. It was difficult because of how sad a lot of these things were. There were a lot of sensitive topics that were tackled. But honestly, with this story, the way that these characters have to progress and ensuring that we see things that allow Hazel to grow up in a certain way, who knows what that will be, we had to see some of this loss to move things forward. And I really give credit to the writers. Again, as I've said in the other issues here, they are not afraid to make the difficult decisions to say, hey, the best way to see these characters move forward is through loss and love and grief. And that is very much what we saw in this portion of the story. In closing, this continues to be unbelievable. It is the best comic series I have ever read. I'm still fairly new in my journey coming back into comics, but this blows me away. And I think if you are looking for a new spin on the comic book world, you have to check this out. And even if you're not, I think you have to check it out. It is brilliantly written, and everything about it is just a joy. And I can't wait to hear what you all think about it. So thank you for coming along on this ride with me. I hope that you pick this story up. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks, and have a great one.